Welcome to Happy Homes and Gardens. I'm your host. My name is Daphne Royse. I am a real estate broker, architecture, and interior designer. Kristen Burke has over 24 years of experience in the field of forensic toxicology. She retired as a director of California Department of Justice Forensic Toxicology Laboratory in 2022 and now consults in the space of toxicology across the U.S. She focuses on health and wellness today because health is the most important thing for every human being. Let's welcome Kristen from the Connect for Healing to share what she knows, what we can do to take care of our health. Welcome, Kristen.
Thank you, Daphne, for having me today. I appreciate it.
Please tell us what you do and why you do what you do today.
What do I do today, or what have I done in the past?
You can tell us everything.
Okay, it's a little bit of a list here. So I recently retired from public service last year in 2022. When I retired as the director of the California Department of Justice Forensic Toxicology Lab. And I worked there for about 5 years. And before that, I worked at a county crime lab in Sacramento, where I worked in the forensic toxicology unit. And also I participated with crime scene response as well. And then before that, I actually worked in private sector in Portland, Oregon, where I had the experience with medical or clinical toxicology and workplace drug testing as well. So all in all, 24 plus years in that field. And so in 2022, I decided to retire earlier than I had initially planned. And I had thought the last year while I was employed, what am I going to do next? And I figured I would start my own business. I have my MBA from USC. And so I figured I would use some of those skills and some of the scientific skills as well. But I also had a passion of helping people heal. I struggled with fibromyalgia for about 25 years. The onset was in the early 90s after the birth of my oldest daughter. And it took a number of years to get diagnosed with it because in the early 90s, a lot of physicians didn't really understand what fibromyalgia was and how to treat it. So essentially, I think it was 98 or 99 when I was diagnosed. Really, the treatment going up to that point was pharmaceutical drugs, which would help with pain or to help with, some of the, I guess, anxiety, because they noticed a lot of patients had issues with depression and anxiety, and also with enough energy to be able to go through the day. There were many times where I was told I would probably be bedridden by the time I was in my 40s or 50s as a result of this, and was also told there was no cure. So I'm pretty stubborn, which is a good thing in this case. And I was able to overcome that. I still would go to work. I did not take pharmaceutical drugs. Now, I did take, for a number of years, ibuprofen, which helped with the inflammation. I watched my liver enzymes and kidney function before, while I was doing that. But ultimately, it ended up affecting my hearing in my right ear. So if you're on ibuprofen for a number of years, that's one of the side effects, is hearing loss. So after that happened in 2014, that was somewhat of a wake-up call for me that I needed to start figuring out other options. So I looked into alternative therapies such as acupuncture, acupressure, massage, meditation, breathing techniques, different types of yoga. And I did see help with that, like some decrease in pain, because it was almost 24 to 25 years of consistent pain almost every day in the body. So long story short, as I was working through these modalities and doing research, I started to see a huge change once I changed my diet, the amount of sleep I was getting, and started integrating meditation. And then I came across a technique called transcendental meditation, and that actually locked it down. And so for the last 3 years, I've been pain-free with absolutely no symptoms at all.
Without medicine at all?
Without medication, zero. Wow. In fact, I'm on nothing. I don't even take ibuprofen. If I take some type of aspirin or ibuprofen, or acetaminophen, which is, formulation in Tylenol, it would only be usually of a headache if I can't get it to go away through exercise, movement, changing diet, or drinking enough water and getting enough sleep. So essentially it's very simple things that help people with many types of imbalances in the body. And so that inspired me to do more research. And the one frustrating thing I came across was it was hard to find vetted people that you knew could help a person in this situation. And everybody's scattered all over different sites or different locations. And so I was talking with a friend of mine going, I wish I could just find one place that I could go to for help, for going through this journey. She said, why don't you just create it? And I thought, really? Me? And so I journaled actually about this. That's what I do to help take the internal ideas I have and read them over and decide, is this a good choice? And I decided in early of 2022, that was something I would probably do. And then I was able to start working on that project in April of 2022. So basically, I created Connect for Healing, which is an online platform. It's kind of like the Etsy of providers of healing, ranging from allopathic, which is what we call Western or modern medicine, all the way to sound therapy. So one-stop shop. So one place that you can, a client or patient can go to find any type of provider of all modalities, ranging from, the regular licensed providers all the way to holistic, where they might be certified. And they can do a search to find them, based on their location, based on their services they provide, whether they have online video meetings or classes, or if they meet in person. So they can filter the search based on the needs, location, and also their ratings as well. And so basically it does the scheduling, the directory, the search, the payment system. It has the video integrated, and then they can have the meeting. We also have educational content on there to provide resources for people to understand how the different modalities may help with different imbalances or illnesses in the body, both mental and physical. There's some spiritual educational content as well. And really that is to help the person and the providers, the client and the providers, to educate themselves on which direction to go and things that are up and coming, but also as preventative tools on how they can prevent the issue from, progressing into disease. So there's that. And I also currently consult in the space of toxicology, because that is something that I already know and that's easy for me. I do that where I'm a regional toxicology liaison, Region 9, which I support California laboratories, Arizona laboratories, and also the Pacific territory, and getting any of the things that they need for funding, resources, training, and such. And I also consult in the area of health and wellness through more educational tools, where I help folks we pull out the inner knowing they already have with how they can heal imbalances in their body, how they can reconnect, basically dealing with stress, which is really the main root cause in a lot of imbalances and issues in our body, both mental and physical, and understanding what their daily routine is and walking through with them on suggestions on what they could do to address some of the issues that they may have. So it's a little bit more than life coaching. It's more of the spiritual aspects, but because of my background and knowing the tools out there with healing the fibromyalgia, I utilize that. Lastly, I am working on my master's in science in Ayurveda, integrative medicine. I will finish the program next December and become an Ayurvedic practitioner. And so even though I'm not an Ayurvedic practitioner at the moment, I take some of the principles and I kind of intertwine them within the educational content that I provide to my clients.
What did you learn from working in forensic toxicology?
Well, so because I have a background in clinical medical workplace and also forensic, being people who are alive, but also post-mortem people who've been deceased, I learned a lot of, I guess, keeping it in simple terms, there's a lot of pharmaceuticals that people are taking today. We see different drug trends, not only in California, but different regions and across the country. But, we have over-the-counter drugs that people can take. So there's three main categories. There's over-the-counter, such as, for example, something that can impair your cognition would be diphenhydramine, which is found in Benadryl. That has potential of causing, cognitive issues in some people. We also have the illicit drugs, which are illegal drugs, such as like cocaine, for example, heroin, some of the fentanyl that's on the street. That also is pharmaceutical grade as well. And then we have the pharmaceutical drugs that people are taking for, varying reasons. In essence, I'm not saying the pharmaceutical drugs are bad, because certainly if I have surgery, I would want to have a pharmaceutical drug, right? I want to be awake. But I think the general intent was for people to be prescribed pharmaceuticals for short term to get them to a place where they can start to heal and look towards other alternative methods of moving past that. And what we're seeing is a large amount of pharmaceutical drugs that are prescribed for, months, weeks, and years, decades, which we've seen, other side effects as a result of that. So the main takeaway is just really some of the short-term and long-term effects of the pharmaceuticals that can affect the cognition, but also how they can affect other parts of the physiology, like the digestive system and other organs in the body, sometimes unintended consequences.
It's very interesting. Let's go back to the imbalance that you're talking about earlier.
Sure.
If we eat clean, sleep well, and exercise, are this enough to keep us healthy?
That's a great question. So there's different aspects, and I'm going to come from kind of what I've learned with Ayurveda, which is a little different than what we may look at things now, right, in the Western part of the world, is your daily routine is important. Obviously, we talk about sleep in the modern world, but also Ayurveda. Sleep is extremely important. When you say eating clean, that's such a very big term. What does that mean, right? What does clean eating mean? I think from one person, it might mean one definition versus another. So I'll approach this from kind of the Ayurvedic standpoint. Is food is considered medicine for the body. And so we look at the whole body as systems. And so what time you eat is important. So for example, if you eat kind of a heavier meal with more animal fat, for example, which is more difficult to digest, you would want to consume that meal in the middle of the day between 10 and 2. The reason being is our digestive fire is the hottest. We call that the Agni in Ayurveda. It's the hottest in the middle of the day because that's when the sun is at the highest point, or the hottest in general, 10 to 2, right? And so if you're going to eat a larger meal, that's the time to do it. You want to make sure you digest your meal fully before you eat the next meal. Now, today in the Western world, we're taught to eat snacking multiple times. But the issue with that is if we eat too close to the last meal, it can create indigestion in the body. And so we want to have a lighter meal in the morning, a lighter meal in the evening where our body's digestive fire isn't the hottest. So it's easier to digest that food. We talk about nutrition, okay? And we talk about we want to get the highest level of nutrients possible to go into the body, and that's accurate. However, if your digestive fire is not in balance, you could put as much nutrients in the body as you want to, meaning that you eat, but you would not be able to absorb them efficiently. And it's really about the absorption of the nutrients that's key. And so going back to the clean eating, let's assume what you mean is non-processed foods, right? Agree with that. And if we eat whole foods, fresh cooked foods that we've prepared ourselves, that aren't in cans, that aren't in boxes. Now there's exceptions to that. Or in bags, if you buy a bag of oatmeal in its raw source and it's not processed, then that would be good. But typically, if we buy boxed foods or canned foods, those are considered processed foods. There is a process that's involved in chemicals that are added to that food to increase the shelf life. So if there is a longer shelf life, chances are the chemicals in that food product are probably not going to be easily digested in the body. Now, I'm not saying never eat those foods, because that's not reasonable, right? But if you can eat fresh cooked, home cooked meals and keep your body in balance as much as possible, if you do eat those foods, it probably won't have the impact on your body as it would if you eat it every day. And we do know, based on scientific research, that if a person eats processed foods very consistently, they've shown that the person on average, in general, can gain 1 pound a month. Conversely, if you reduce processed foods out of your diet and you eat more fresh home cooked meals, if you can, right? They've seen studies that show reduction in weight. And this is not, every person, but just in general, 1 pound a month of loss of weight. That's huge. So going back to the daily routine, a person in a perfect world, you can get up between 4 and 6 in the morning and go to bed no later than 10, and limit the electronics before you go to bed at night so that your mind's not going a million miles an hour. Drink, instead of cold water, because cold water actually can, affect the digestion, drink room temp water or warm water. That will help to kind of keep the digestive fire going. Sipping that, largest meal in the middle of the day, fresh cooked foods. Daily routine would include some movement. Doesn't have to be heavy, vigorous exercise every day, but different forms of movement, yoga, jogging, using like a cycling machine, or cycling with your regular bike, weight training. You do want to sweat to bring out the fats in the body, but it's good to also make sure that there's balance, so there's not overexertion of exercise either. So anything in excess is typically bad if you want to maintain balance. So you asked me, I think the eating clean, sleep well, absolutely, exercise, which is movement. But the other thing that really helps to lock down balance is meditation. And the reason for this is our physiology actually mirrors our consciousness level. And if we are out of balance in some ways, we're doing too much, not doing enough, it will affect our physiology. And usually it starts with the mind, when the mind's going too much. So what meditation does is it can actually calm the mind, reconnect mind with body, keep that balance so you're not just in the mind making decisions with analytical, but also using intuition, which is important with decision making. And that decision making can help guide us on what are the right foods. If you have, everything's a decision point. Should I eat this today or this? Should I have coffee or should I have this? Should I put milk in this or should I not? Should I work out? All of these things, right? So that meditation helps to lower and calm the physiology, helps with digestion. Specifically with transcendental meditation, there are scientific studies that show a reduction in cardiovascular disease, stress, but it also an increase of intellect that we can very quickly pull in when we're answering questions or communicating with people. So hopefully I answered your question okay.
Let's talk about meditation. How often a person need meditation? Is it daily routine, or this is maybe a couple times a week kind of thing?
It should be a non-negotiable daily routine item, just like you brush your teeth. Hygiene of the mind and physiology. For me, transcendental meditation works the best. I've tried all different forms of meditation. I have a very active mind, so I'd feel guilty if my mind would start to wander. And with transcendental meditation, you actually can, that's part of the meditation process. And so basically you have a mantra that you focus on that can bring you back to that transcendental state. And I can tell you there's nothing like it. It's a very blissful feeling when you're in that state, and that sets the tone for the rest of your day. But with transcendental meditation, it's twice a day for 20 minutes, once in the morning after I exercise, before I eat, and then in the afternoon before dinner. People can do it at any time, and if they can't do it twice, if they do it once, it's better than nothing, but it's really, you get the best benefit out of twice a day. Now, I realize there are people who meditate in different ways, and so I honor that. Some people will do like a guided meditation, or they'll use music, sound, tones to kind of go into that transcendental state. There's different ways of doing that. The whole point is you're reconnecting mind and body through going into a higher consciousness level. And that actually is what helps to keep that balance. That balance is key, especially today with a lot of external factors that we have that are distractions, such as our electronics that we have. Also, some of the fears with, the economy, jobs, relationships, just so many different things that politics. And when you're in more of a balanced state, let me just give you an analogy. If you had two cars, two vehicles, right? And I don't know if you're familiar with this, but automobiles have shock absorbers in the vehicle. So when you go over a bump, it actually takes some of that shock so that you don't, it's not an abrupt movement over that bump. So a person who meditates has those shock absorbers in the vehicle. A person who doesn't meditate does not have those shock absorbers. They both go over the same bump with the same car, but they don't have the same shock absorbers. They both have very different experiences with that challenge or that bump or whatever you want to call it. So meditation really helps with that. So instead of being in the middle of the situation, you're more of the observer and watching the situation. So with less attachment.
Stress is probably the biggest issue in the Silicon Valley. What do you recommend people to handle stress? Will meditation work?
Meditation is a large tool that would absolutely help with that. And as we know from scientific studies, that stress actually is a predominant root cause for imbalances or illnesses and disease. And certainly with fibromyalgia, it is actually one of the major root cause of that imbalance in the body. So if meditation alone can be very helpful but sleep is important too. Daily routine is important, and movement. Moving, because if you have pain in your body, that is an accumulation of energy from stress or, that needs to move out of your body. We talked about earlier, before we started this, we talked about channels moving energy through the body. With Ayurveda, we talk about the channels being shrotas. So you want to move things through. Things come in, you want to move them out. If you have a blockage, if you have pain in the body, likely you have a blockage somewhere. And so that movement helps to move I'm just trying to explain this in a simple term. It'll move that out of the body. So meditation, exercise or movement, balanced diet, daily routine, and also the environmental factors, the energy that you surround yourself with, your environment at work or people that you hang around. Sometimes we can't control that, but those other aspects will help to mitigate those situations.
Ayurveda and integrative medicine. Please tell us what they are and why are they important to our lives?
So Ayurveda is considered one of the oldest form of medicine, and it originated from India. And so really the different, if we want to compare that against modern medicine, we tend to treat the symptoms of an imbalance or disease. Whereas Ayurveda, we are not treating the disease. We're identifying what the root cause is, and we're looking at systems of the body. And so we determine what the root cause is, try to remove the causative factors, and then suggestions on how to make changes in daily routine, exercise, diet, meditation to help to keep things balanced. The last stage would be herbal recommendations. The herbal recommendations aren't going to work if the causative factors still exist, or if we haven't removed any of them. So that's essentially what we look at, is we treating the whole person, and it's client or patient centered care that's specific to that person. That isn't necessarily going to be the same for the next person. Now with integrative care, that's when we're looking at the best of both worlds, right? Or all worlds. So we're taking the best of, let's say, and this is my definition of it, allopathic or Western medicine, which there's absolutely fantastic remedies or like diagnostic testing that, huge improvements we've made in modern medicine. We take those, and we also take alternative modalities under the complementary alternative medicine market. Ayurveda is one of those, but there's many others. So we're taking the best of both of those worlds and we're meshing them together into integrative medicine. And that really is the future for helping people heal. So it is more of a specific centered care for that person versus a one-size-fits-all approach.
What is the major differences between Eastern and Western medicines?
Great question. So Eastern medicine, two examples would be Chinese medicine, which originated out of China, and Ayurveda, which originated out of India. Those are the two longest standing forms of medicine today. And so that would be the Eastern medicine. Western medicine is what we call allopathic medicine, and utilizing that in the Western part of the world, which is in the United States. The main difference between the two is allopathic medicine is treating the symptoms. So we go through a flow chart, ruling out, issues based on diagnostic testing and symptomology. For example, if someone has pain, we would want to relieve the pain. So we give them a pain medication. We may not know where that pain originated from. And so the in-depth investigation doesn't necessarily occur, right? And the other thing is it treats one area of the body, one system versus all of the systems. And so the thing is, we know that all systems work together to keep someone healthy. For example, we know that with the renal system and the cardiovascular system, those actually they're communicating in the digestive system. If someone has high blood pressure, likely there's something also going on with the renal system. They might have a kidney stone or, some type of other thing going on with that part of their body. But with Western allopathic medicine, if someone has high blood pressure, they might be put on blood pressure medication versus finding out why do they have high blood pressure. Now with Eastern medicine, such as Ayurveda, we want to get down to what is creating an imbalance in the first place that caused the high blood pressure. And so figuring out what the root cause is and removing the causative factors and trying to help rebalance that. Now with Ayurveda, we never tell a client to get off of medication that a physician has put them on. What happens is we try to work together with the physician on the best way to kind of step through that process, because the physician has that knowledge base and we're coming from a different perspective rather. So, and that is really the integrative part of this that you talked about, or you asked about in the previous question, is taking the best of both worlds. And my hope moving forward with the future is there's more of that, and that there's more communication with physicians on working on the whole body versus separate systems of the body.
On your website page, you indicated Mind+Body+Soul equal wholeness. Can you elaborate this with us?
Absolutely. So we have the mind, which is the analytical part of our body. We have the body, which represents the physiology and the function of the body. And then we have the soul, which is the spiritual part of the body. And really all of those run together. And then, when we talk about making decisions, balancing out the analytical mind and the intuition are really key. The intuition comes from our consciousness level, which is essentially stored in the physiological part of the heart, but also it is our gut, an inner knowing, right, that people use as the term, and that's the soul. So when we have all three of those intact and flowing freely, that is when we make good decisions for ourselves and for others moving through space. And then we're coming from a state of wholeness versus a fragmented state, I guess you could say. Now, there's different ways of explaining this. That's my perspective and understanding.
In the beginning of the interview, you mentioned that you have a different kind of services that you provided to people. How will people know which one fits them the best?
So if you're talking about Connect for Healing, the online platform, it's not me specifically that's providing the services. The platform is merely a site where providers can go on there and provide the services themselves to the clients. But as far as how many different services, right now, there's probably between 60 and 80 services, and that will continue to grow. It's kind of separated out into different categories, such as alternative medicine. Let's see, the functional medicine part of it, where we have Ayurveda, naturopath, Chinese medicine, the functional medicine itself. And there's also allopathic doctors that are on there that are open to working with alternative methods to help folks, overcome some of the challenges. We have energy healing, such as Reiki, quantum healing hypnosis, where someone is put into or that's more mind therapy. Mind therapy, energy healing, such as Reiki. We also have sound therapy, and let's see, coaching. There's spiritual coaching. There's also life coaching. There's business coaching on there as well. Massage therapy, so body work, cranial sacral therapy. So, and there's also psychotherapy. So psychotherapy psychiatric therapy, spiritual psychotherapy. So there's different, modalities on there, some of which require licensure, some of which require certification, and some of them which require, some type of degree. So essentially, your question was, how do they know which one? There is a description of each, what each modality offers, and there will be educational content in the form of literature and video to help folks decide what might be best. We will be adding other tools in the future so that when someone goes on there, it's essentially a questionnaire that walks them through and it gives them a suggested list of services that might be helpful for those imbalances. And the reason there would be more than one is because this isn't just treating one thing. The one thing could be related to a multitude of things, right? As we just talked about the wholeness aspect. And then also providers that would provide those services to a person as well. And so those tools would be added in the updated version of the software.
How can people contact you for consultation and services?
Okay, so there's two different things. I have the Connect for Healing, if they were interested in knowing more about that and getting on the interest list. I have a interim website, connectforhealing.net. So it's connect, the number 4, and then healing.net. And they can go on the interest list as a provider or as a potential client or patient. And I can start sending some emails to them so they can find out when we're going to launch. Now, as far as the consulting services that I provide in health and wellness, I do also have a website, and it is Your Health Is, spelled IZ, wealth.com. So I don't know if there's a way to post that somewhere so people can see it. Some people are visual, just to contact me that way.
I can post this on my social media, so I can link all the websites to it.
Okay.
Would that work?
That would be great. And the website for the services that I provide for consulting for health and wellness, it's Kristen Burke, Health and Wellness. And the services are listed on there. And right now I have a promotional offer it's a reduction in price that will probably continue on for the next few months. And there's also a student discount on there as well.
Great. And I understand you have an online platform and also work in Los Altos. Do you have a location there?
I do. So in the physical location that I work out of is Cuabati, and that is on First Street in Los Altos. I believe the address is 197 First Street, Los Altos. And I am there right now 4 days a month. I also do online consultations for free, but I try to schedule the times that I work in person during those 4 days. And then as the client base grows, I'll increase the days that I am present in the office.
Thank you so much, Kristen. I learned so much today. It's very informative information that you provided to us.
You're welcome. I'm big on education. I think that's going to be key moving forward. And I certainly don't think I'm the know-all be-all. I do know a lot, but I do consider myself a student always welcome to all perspectives. I do public speaking events and try to educate on my own journey with healing from fibromyalgia. And of course, there are other ways that it can be done other than the way that I did it. But it's something I feel is important to share with more because it is pretty common.
Well, thank you so much and good luck for your last few months of Ayurveda studies.
Thank you. I appreciate that.
Thank you.
Thank you.